Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to episode number 1 of the Growth Hackers podcast. I am so excited. I'm Phil Graham.
And I'm Natalia Sanchez.
And we are super pumped to be here. Can you
God.
believe we're doing this?
I know,
So
this
fun.
is so crazy. Episode 1 is finally in the books. It's been kind of a journey getting here.
Yes, it has. If you guys only knew, technology be damned, but we are, we're overcoming, and we're super excited to be here and talk about stuff that really can change lives. And before we get into that, I think we should tell people a little bit about who we are and why we're doing this. So let's do ladies first. You can go first on that part.
All right. Hi, guys. Again, welcome to the show. And my name is Natalia Sanchez. I am a business coach, business strategist, and a leadership development coach as well. And my passion is really in helping people, helping entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, small business owners, identify the roadblocks in their businesses and help them elevate their performance and also bridge the gap from where they are to where they want to be. I'm just really passionate about seeing people succeed at the end of the day. And I know that's kind of at the root of why we're here. And so part of the reason why Phil and I talked about doing this and why doing a show like this is so important to me is to help provide the insights that give people the real scope, the real perspective on what it takes to show up and truly crush it in all areas of your life, right? Your mindset, your business, your life in general, so that we can really take where we are to that next level.
I love it. For me, I own my own marketing agency. I love helping, entrepreneurs and businesses and stuff like that with business, getting more clients. But my favorite topic, probably out of everything, is mindset.
Yeah.
Because I learned a long time ago that your mindset is like the operating system of your life. It's like the operating system of your computer and of your life, of your mind. So for me, I learned a lot about mindset 7 or 8 years ago when I lost over 125 pounds. That was a big change for me. And I was able to use those things I learned in business, and that's helped me tremendously. So I have this passion that I want to share it with other people because I feel like I've found these secrets that I had to go through fire to get.
Totally.
And I want to help other people. So that's what we're all about. I feel like talking about business and mindset is the perfect combination. It's like Ferrari and Mother Teresa having a baby.
I mean, that's what I was thinking. That was the exact image that came to my mind.
Yeah, I'm sure everybody thought that.
Yeah.
We're all on the same page here. But I love business. I love running my agency. We do consulting, we do done for you services and stuff like that. But over and over again, I found that mindset is what really, in most cases, determines an entrepreneur's success or failure, not the tactics.
Amen. And I think that's kind of what you and I really, what inspired us most to even get started on this was that we were kind of talking about this whole concept of people tend to compartmentalize. They like to say, oh, there's how we show up professionally and then there's how we are personally, right?
Yeah.
With, outside of that. And I kind of, what's becoming more and more true to me lately is kind of how you do anything is how you do everything, or how you do everything is how you do anything. And I realized that, in the working with my clients, a lot of the work that we do is mindset work, they hire me on as a strategist, but before we can even get to the strategy of the business, it's we got to figure out the strategy of the mind, and the perspective. And I think you and I have talked about this, perspective is everything, and so if we can kind of dial in our perspective on things, but first by understanding where we are within ourselves, that gives us all the power we need, right? That's the tool. That is all the tools we need to be successful anywhere.
So I love how you said, well, what was it exactly? How you do anything is how you do everything. That's a quotable, by the way.
It's not me though. I wish I could take credit.
I love that. And it reminds me of something somebody said a few years ago. Unfortunately, he's not alive anymore, but his name was Greg Plitt. He was a fitness model and bodybuilder who ended up getting hit by a train, but that's a topic for another show. But one of the things, he was a big time motivator. And one of the things that he would say is that how you clean your counters, if you're cleaning your counter or if you're washing your car, how you do that is like a spotlight on the rest of your life. If you leave little spots, you might think you're just leaving little spots on the car. You're not. you're going to leave little spots in other areas of your life too. And so I thought that was really like, when I heard that, I was like, man, that makes sense. So I make sure, if I ever wash the car, I'm not going to leave any spots.
Yeah, right.
You
Well,
know,
it's funny
like a habit.
It's funny that you say that. You're absolutely right. Because I actually think about how I clean my car, and I'm so meticulous. Like, and it's really funny. And this is just sort of a little bit of a tangent, but I really enjoy cleaning my car, but sometimes I don't have the opportunity to like do it myself because of where I'm living, or,
Sure.
like I don't have access to a driveway, whatever. Right. So I'll go and get it cleaned. And the last time I went to go have my car washed, they cleaned everything, looked really good. I get into the car, and literally the little spot that's like a little cubby hole right there on the dash, like it's almost on the bottom, right? Like right by the e-brake kind of thing. Like I looked in there and I was like, there's still trash in there. Like they cleaned everything, but they missed this little cubby hole of like trash.
Yeah.
Right. And I just thought, like, I paid about $40 to get my car washed. Right. And I just thought, like, how is it that they weren't paying attention to that part, right? Like, what is it what was distracting them? And I think that this is where calling our attention to how we're showing up again in our lives and for our business. It's like, what are the cubby holes that we're not paying attention to? Like, where are we overlooking our performance? Like, where are we overlooking the areas that need our focus and attention? And again, like, where are we leaving spots on the car? So I thought, and it's interesting, because if we think about who are the people that are affected or impacted by that, right? Because for me, I'm like, I just paid a lot of money and there's still trash in my car. Like,
you're probably not going to go back to that.
No, never.
Place,
Exactly.
Now, what if they would have not only cleaned that area, but like, let's say they left like a little, whatever, like a treat in there or something, just something a little extra.
Yeah.
Like the opposite effect probably would have happened. You'd probably be like, even if they were more expensive, you would probably go back if it was perfect and they did just a little. And what would it have cost them to put, let's just say, a little treat, 2 cents extra, maybe?
Right.
Like
maybe like a mint or something.
Yeah. Something like that. Yeah, exactly. And they probably would have won you for life as long as you're in the area.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So it's all these little things, but it does start. The tactic is placing the mint there and doing that, but the mindset is overriding, like, how do I put myself in a position where I'm going to serve people and stand out and all that kind of stuff? And the mindset controls all that. So we're excited to like bring all this to you guys, because like we love talking about this stuff. How many times have we had a conversation where like, we should have recorded that.
Yeah.
Perfect for a podcast, right?
Yes. I feel like every time we talk, we just dive into wherever we are. It's like, it's so much fun. And I think I'm just so excited, because I think that this is like the nuts and bolts of it,
Yeah.
And this is that little picture we just created is like a perfect example of like just the different conversations that we can have. And again, how there's no part of how we show up in our lives that isn't relevant to the way that we do our own work and the success that we want to experience in the world and how we want to serve other people. And so I think it's, again, the premise of this whole show is to really dive into the mindset necessary, right, to really show up in a greater capacity, both for ourselves and our work, and again, serve at the highest level. And I really feel like the conversations that we're going to have around this are going to be not only like we're going to drop some awesome insights, but also I think it's going to open up space to explore things in a way that, most people are really interested in exploring the depths of some of these concepts,
Absolutely. And too many times people are like focused on just the surface level stuff, and or they're listening to other things that at surface level, and it just doesn't really do it. It won't change your life. We want to actually talk about stuff that will, number one, entertain you, and number two, change your life.
Yes.
And it'll be fun for all of us. Like we're going to have fun doing this because we love this stuff.
Right.
So
sorry, go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was going to say, let me ask you a question. We didn't actually talk about this right before the show, and I don't know what you're going to say. Who would you say this podcast is most for? What kind of person?
Yeah, that's actually a great
question. Love throwing like curveballs.
Oh, this is great. Keep me on my toes.
Keep you on your toes. Now I have to be ready in case you throw me one.
Be ready, right? Game on. No, but I think, in a general sense, again, just, I think it's really, I was talking to somebody the other day about this group coaching program that I'm preparing. And
Mhm.
he wrote something about titling it A New Brand of Entrepreneur.
I like that.
And I just got back from this event this last weekend called Thrive. For those of you tuning in, Thrive, Make Money Matter. Cole and Sonia Hatter hosted this amazing event, and their whole thing is all about giving back, right? Creating a business that's for purpose.
I
And
love that, by the way.
yeah, it's just beautiful, right? Because it integrates us wholly into the mission of the work that we do. But I think for us, it's almost like, going back to that concept of like a new brand of entrepreneur, like the entrepreneur that's like, building a business, no matter where you are in your business, right? Like, how can you dial it in by dialing in yourself? So how can we really bridge the gap between personal development and professional development, and also elevate how we feel about ourselves in the way that we do our work? So I don't know if that answers the question, but I really feel like it could be anybody in this business space, really, who's just kind of like, I think whenever anybody feels like they're just kind of like, you know what I mean? Like they're
Mhm.
showing up and they're just like, like I'm not hitting it, right? Like I'm not crushing it. Like I want us to help people crush it, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, you said that really well. And I totally 100% agree with everything. I would say also, like, it's really for any entrepreneur who's not 1000% happy.
Yes. Oh, that's so good.
Whether you're frustrated and miserable, or you're just okay or kind of happy, but you feel like there's something more. There's a lot of people living in that space. And there's so much opportunity to be 1000% happy and not let society put you in a box, not let your own mind put you in a box. Everybody wants to put you in a box. They do.
Yes.
Like, they really do. And life is kind of geared that way. And there's ways that you can flip the script. And like, I'm super excited that we're going to be talking about all that stuff, because, anybody who wants to, whether it's making more money, just becoming happier and more content, and living life on your terms, and being part of like the 1%. And it doesn't even have to involve money. For some
Yeah.
people it will, but
Yeah.
for others, you might already have a lot of money,
Yeah.
but you're not happy.
I really love what you're saying too. And I think you're bringing up a great point. It's like, cause I was like, oh, entrepreneurs, and that's kind of informed by the fact that most of my work is with entrepreneurs, but really like you don't have to be an entrepreneur. You could be someone within a corporate job who's, again, just not 1000% fulfilled or 1000% satisfied. And I think that's really what I think you just nailed it. It's like the person who's really not 100 or 1000% satisfied with where they are and is really looking to elevate that. Like again, like
Yep.
elevating our mindset and our business and our life. Like, and I think that it's like, I think we tend to settle for where we are. We're like,
Oh, yeah.
business is my life is like my relationships are all right, and it's like, I don't know about you, Phil, but like, I'm super hungry for like that next level of whatever that is. Like,
Yeah.
and it's, again, like you said, it's not even about the money. It's like, I think my personal mission, and I'd love to hear what your perspective is on this, but like for me, in this life that I'm living, my personal mission is to basically max it out. Like, how can I experience myself in the best, most possible way that is bringing me joy, happiness, and fulfillment constantly, and also it's not to say things should always be good, because things are going to be really hard. And you and I are going to talk about that. Like how can we still experience fulfillment when times are really hard? And how can we create a perspective around, how to embrace the hard times, embrace the struggle, embrace the shit storms, if you will. Right. So
Yeah.
how do you feel about like the way that you want to show up in your life? Yeah.
Yeah, I want to be, number one, I want to be an example for people. And number two, I want to inspire and get people to like show up in a way that they don't even believe is possible. And I always go back to before I lost all that weight.
Mm.
I remember a day in my life, probably 15 years ago, where I hated working out. I remember trying to think, I would try and have to get myself to work out for 30 minutes. I swear to you, I would have rather went to the dentist at that time in my life, which is pretty bad, right? And it's so weird because like for the past 10 years or 8 years or whatever, like working out has become part of the fiber of my being. I mean, I typically, as long as I'm not injured, I'm doing it twice a day, 6 days a week.
Yeah.
And I'm still doing it on Sunday at least once. And I don't do it because I have to. I do it because I love it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's weird though that I could go from that's an extreme opposite,
mm-hmm.
you know? And so I just want people to know there's more. Whatever, you know, something might be missing, or you might want more out of life. Here's one good little thing I'll say that people could do right now, because you were talked about settling. And I think it's human nature to kind of settle. So one thing I like to do is I like to ask people, look at everything in your life right now. Like, let's start with where you're living, for example. Are you living wherever you're living, like city, you know, like in that city, in that area, because you purposely chose to? Like, if you had all the money in the world, would you live there? Or are you living there because you grew up there, or because something took you there that you're not tied to anymore, or this or that? Mm-hmm. Where would you live if money didn't matter and you could live anywhere? And if you're not living there, you're settling right now.
Yeah.
You know, and what I like to do is think about lots of areas of my life. You know, am I doing this because I want to, and am I consciously wanting to do this today for a certain reason, or am I doing it because it's always been done, you know, and stuff like that. And those things have helped me a lot.
I love that you're bringing that up. And one of the things that you're cueing in me, once it just sparked this idea of, like, you know, part of what we're talking about is perspective, right? Like,
yes.
And I think you and I talked about this a couple of weeks ago about how there's, at some point when we shift, because I totally feel you. There was a point in my life, like, part of my story. So I don't know if I've even shared this with you, that, like, I struggled with depression for 15 years.
No, I had no idea. Oh my gosh. That is a hard thing too. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. It was pretty, my tendency is to always kind of make light of something. And, I've been realizing that, like, that's my way of, one, making other people feel more comfortable with this fact that I've, like, struggled with this, but also I think to try and make myself not fully own the gravity of what that meant for me, that I spent pretty much the majority of my adult life in this state of, like, major depression. And it started when I was 10 years old. I mean, it started when I was really young.
Wow.
And we'll get in, like, later on, you know, we can tap into, like, you know, what triggers us into these states in our lives, because that's the thing too, is, like, life happens, right? And oftentimes we're thrown into an environment. I mean, that moment when you woke up and you're like, I'm gonna dedicate, you know, myself to losing 200 pounds, right? Like, you found yourself there because of other things that were going on in your life, right?
Definitely.
So when I was in the midst of my depression, similar to when you were in the midst of not ever wanting to work out, right? Like, nobody could have told me that I would have been where I am today, feeling great and being completely out of it, right? Like, in fact, if that conversation took place, I'd be like, yo, like, you're not respecting the fact that I'm depressed. Like, don't tell me it could be any other way.
Yep.
But there comes a point when you shift, and when that shift happens, if it happens the right way, I want to say, it becomes a part of your DNA.
Yep.
Right? It becomes a part of who you are. Like you said, like, now working out is, like, at the fiber of your being. Like, you can't imagine you not being this way.
Yep.
And I'm excited to have these conversations where we can inspire perspective in a way that helps people integrate it into their DNA. Like, let's help you shift into that space where 2 years from now, you won't even be able to recognize yourself because you're growing so much, right? The other thing that comes to mind is possibility. And this, you know, when you brought up this whole concept of, like, not settling, I think what happens is that we start limiting, the more kind of engrossed we get in our lives and how things are, the more we tend to limit the possibilities that we see for ourselves, right? And so I like to say, like, let's start creating more possibilities for ourselves. Let's stop limiting ourselves and settling for what we're experiencing, and start really asking ourselves, like, well, what would that next, like, possibility look like for me? If I'm not happy with where I'm living and I did want to live somewhere else, what would that look like, and how could I make that happen? You know, like, let's embrace and lean into the possibilities of what could be, and see all things as possible, and then work from that space, you know, because I think I see that a lot, where people are like, oh yeah, that's just not realistic. But, like, what if it were? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think so many people kind of just they go on cruise control.
Yes.
I've done this many times. I'm sure you have. We all do it. So don't feel bad if you do it. Like, we've all been there.
Yeah.
But I love the fact that, you know, if you're not where you want to be, don't look at that as like a negative. Look at it as an amazing thing. Like if you realize what you want and you don't have it right now, that's a gift because you can absolutely go get it. Like people, you have so much time. You know, everybody thinks when you're 20, like you think you're getting old. When you're 30, you think you're like, there's people, you know, there's people that are 80 that still have time. There's people that are 90 that are running marathons and stuff. So no matter what, you've got time. But I love the possibility thinking, the abundant thinking. And I'm just excited to just share that on a weekly basis with people because there's not enough of that out there. Combining business and mindset is the game changer. People just don't do that very much. So I'm pumped about this and we're going to change lives.
Yeah. And I think it goes to like the title of the show. It's like mindset is like the combination of the two, like business and mindset is like the way you're going to hack your growth, right? Like if you can just find a way to combine the two, I think it's going to take your life to that next level so long as you're willing. And I think that that's really what it comes down to. It's like, I'm sure whoever's listening is going to be somebody who's willing, right? You're not.
Yeah, you better be.
Yeah, exactly.
Or else get off our show. No.
Yeah. What are you doing here? Be gone with you. No, but no, I'm super pumped and I cannot wait to see, where all the different topics that we cover and where we go from here. So I guess we talked about, today a good place to dive in is really how we show up in the work that we do. Right. And I think that ties back into kind of how we started this conversation with like, again, how you do anything is how you do everything. If you're leaving those spots on the car, like, what does it really say? Like, where else are you leaving spots? So what do you think, Phil, like for you, what has been like the distinguishing factor in how you've engaged within yourself, within your business?
In terms of expand on that a little bit,
so for those that are tuning in and they're like, they're kind of going through the motions, right? And like, again, whether they're working within a corporate space or they're, entrepreneurs building their businesses, I think there's something to be said about how we engage within the work, right? And I'll give a good example. It's like, I go through these phases, like through these waves, right? Where like, I'll be at peak performance and then I'll burn out and then I'll be at like not peak performance, right? And what I've tried to do, and I think you mentioned, I love that you brought this up earlier. It's kind of like when we generate the self-awareness of where we are, right? And like, okay, well, what's not really working here? For me, usually it's because at some point my mind, I'm not really engaged in my work in a way that's generating high productivity, right? High performance. So, and I think what happens is for a lot of people, and again, this kind of comes from the passion of my work where I want to see people succeed in business, but they have to change the way they're showing up.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. And so like for you, like you've been crushing it in the game for a long time. Like, things are going good. Right. So what do you think has been the distinguishing factor for you in how you've shown up for your business?
Okay. No, that's a great question. So first of all, you have to have a really good why, and once you have the why, you're going to find a way. I kind of look at it like one of the animals I like a lot are lions. Because they're so fierce, yet they're so also like they'll do anything for the people they love,
Yeah.
And so that's like a role model of mine. But in terms of how I show up, one of the things that's helped me a lot is to really focus, and this has been like a total game changer, is to focus on just a few things that make the most difference. And secondly, this is probably the most important, is to not care what anybody thinks.
Yes.
It's so common. People do or they don't do things based on the feedback they're worried about getting from other people that most of the time don't even matter to their life in the first place.
Yeah,
it's human nature. We all, we all do it at, to some extent. But I was able to just say, all right, here's my thing. I'm going to do it. And it doesn't matter what anybody thinks. And to me, that's helped me so much. That has made a huge difference. And I would encourage everyone to stop caring about likes and comments, stop caring about, just general stuff, and get into the stuff that's going to move the needle in your business or in your life.
Yeah.
And when you do that, like it frees you and you start like, it gives you energy you didn't have, and it gives you a renewed focus, and you're doing things for, your why instead of doing things for feedback from other people that aren't going to matter to you anyway.
So good. Oh my gosh. You just like made so many great points there. And I want to say that like, I think I don't know how you felt, but like for me, like even just us like endeavoring on this journey together, right? Like finally just committing to it and
Yep.
saying like, we're going to show up, we're going to do it. Like putting myself in that space, because this is really challenging for me. I'm going to be very honest and candid here. Like showing up on whether in any capacity, whether it's audio or video or whatever, like being very public in how I'm showing up is something that I have to struggle with in terms of like my nerves. I have insecurities and all of that. But at the same time, like when I put myself in that space of like, I'm embracing a new challenge, it just I don't know what it is. It just also pumps me up. Like now all of a sudden I'm thinking, what else can I do? Like what other opportunities are available to me? How else can I really dial into my work in a way that makes me feel like this? Right. And I think that the whole point behind this is that we reached out to each other and really like dialed in together in this process. And so I think a lot of times we think, and this goes to your point of like not caring about what other people think. It's like, yes, absolutely. Don't care. Like stop caring so much about what other people think, and find people that will support you in whatever it is that you're trying to do, you know? Cause it's like, you and I both knew that we needed to get, you know, it's like, yo, let's get this going, you know, but it's something about the way that we can inspire one another to show up in a greater capacity that we're leveraging that too.
Yeah, I love that. And if you look at lions or wolves or something, like they find like they may hunt by themselves, but a lot of times they don't. They hunt in packs, and they find other lions that have similar instincts and similar, you know, so it just goes back to that. I totally agree.
It's like the pride, right? They have like the pride, I think.
That's the word. That's what I was looking for. Thank you. Yeah. That they do that. And they don't find, you know, lions that are not willing to hunt for the pride. You know, they find lions that are like them. And I think for us, it's important for us to find people that are similar, because you're going to be very similar to the people you spend the most time with. Just a fact of life, you know, so you have to just be very careful. Sometimes you don't have a choice, but you have to be very careful with, you know, the types of people you spend time with and the content you consume and all that stuff. So we hit it off, and like we had such similar mindsets and ambitions, and that was perfect. Right. So, and I think we're doing this podcast just as much for us as we are for everybody out there, because it does like, I have another podcast that I've been doing about a year and a half, and it does, you have to like be prepared on a weekly basis, and you have to be on your game to do it. And so it really makes you step up, you know, which is good.
Oh my gosh, that's such a great point, because I was actually thinking, that's so crazy. As we were getting ready for this, that pressure, I don't know how you feel when it comes to pressure, but like I react well under pressure. And I think that, you know, it's easy when we're kind of comfortable, we let off on the pressure a little bit, right? Like we're not feeling it in the same capacity. So when you're pushing yourself to the brink of when you're stretching your capacities, right? When you're really challenging yourself, the pressure is on. And then again, it's almost like that reinforces every other aspect of your life, because now you have something else that you have to manage in order for other things to still go well, right? Like you still have to make family time. You still have to make personal time. You still have to make sure that you're, you know, working on the admin of whatever it is that you're doing. Right. And so I was kind of excited, because I'm like, all right, now I have this I've made a commitment now to show up with you like every Friday. And I'm stoked about that, because again, it creates structure for me. And again, it creates a little bit of pressure where I'm like, all right, like, let's go. Like you got to manage it. You got to navigate this, you know? So that's like a great point. It's like for those people who are finding themselves kind of having a hard time navigating their life, maybe you just need to put a little pressure on yourself.
That's a really good point. I'm so excited for this. So this is a podcast. It's audio on iTunes and Google Play, but it's also video on YouTube. And I love that we're starting this from zero. Like this is brand new. This is like a baby that's just born, right? The Growth Hackers podcast. And to me, that motivates me, because it's like, that's a challenge. That's like, oh my gosh, it's like a workout that hasn't been done yet. You know, we have to
that's great. I love that. I love that.
It's like calling our name.
Yeah, right. And I love that you kind of like brought it up, like it's like a newborn baby. And I feel like that's the other thing too, is like, how can we talk about mindset, and it's like, for me, a lot of times it's how I'm thinking about the thing that I'm doing. And so like my business, right? I think about my business as my baby. Like, how am I, if I'm fully responsible for this thing, like what kind of parent am I? You know? Like,
exactly. We don't want to drop the baby.
No, we don't want to drop the baby, right? Like, so I love that. Like, just nurturing, we have to nurture the growth of ourselves and the thing in which we're engaging with, right? Yeah, I love that. So I wanted to go ahead.
I think that was like, I think we covered so much like good stuff today. This is nothing compared to what we're going to be talking about in the future too. Like we're going to like bring the fire on stuff, and we want to have this be interactive as well in the future. You know, we'll have a website, Facebook page, all that stuff. And, you know, we're going to want to interact with people. It's not just going to be a one-way communication, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And to that point, like, you guys listening, like send us your questions. We've got our email address is growthhackerspodcast@gmail.com.
Super easy. I like it.
Yeah, super easy. Just send us over your questions, or we will be going live. So the whole goal today was to go live on YouTube, and we're looking forward to when that can happen next week. But when we go live, like, we can't wait to see what you guys have to say or what you guys are struggling with. Because I think that's the other thing too, Phil, is like part of us, like, we want to know what everybody else is struggling with too. And just kind of like, I'm excited to kind of go on the fly and like take, like, you know, be in the hot seat where people can just throw what they're going through at us, and we can just respond from there. That'll be fun.
That's my favorite part. Like by far, like just let's get people, let's find their struggles, and then boom, let's help them and help each other and stuff. Like, to me, like, I get most excited for that. So we actually tried to go live, but, you know, little technical challenges today. Next week for sure we'll be live, and it's going to be really cool, really fun.
It's going to be absolutely incredible. I cannot wait. And by the way, so lions, my favorite animal is a tiger.
Ooh, yeah. I like the stripes.
Yeah, right. And so it's just funny that you said lions. I'm like, oh, that's so cool. Like mine, I don't think you knew that mine was a tiger.
No, I had no idea. what's the reason? Is it how they look, or is it something else?
Oh no, obviously they're very beautiful animals, but for me, it's really about how they're like fierce, but they're also just like, nobody can mess with them, right? You know, and you don't ever look at a tiger and think like, yeah, today would be a good day to mess with the tiger. You know, like,
definitely not.
You know, they hold their space and they're respected, right? And they own their power. That's the thing about tigers, right? Or any feline, I think, you know, predator. It's like they own their power, right? Yep. And there's a fierceness to them. And so I think that, for me, you know, I love the metaphor you brought up with the lion, because the lions, you know, they're leaders of the pride, right? And they're also protecting the thing. They're protecting the thing in which they care about. And I feel like with the tiger, they're going to defend their ground. They're going to own their space, right? And I think that that's really important, especially again in this business space or the professional space. It's like, you know, own the space that you're in. And it doesn't matter whatever you're doing. Like, again, whether you're in a business, like working within a corporation, or whether you're running a business, whatever space you're in, own it, you know, and just be dialed, you know, dial it in and be fierce in that space too. Like, and I'm not saying fierce against other people, but fierce in the way you're showing up. I think fiercity is a way in which we show up and engage in the work that we do.
Yeah. Be fierce and savage for yourself. Like you said, it's not against other people. Gary Vee had a great quote one time. He's like, it's about building the biggest building without, you know, like talking about somebody else's building that isn't, you know, not worrying about the smaller buildings. Just build the biggest without putting anybody else's down. That's all.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
You don't have to put anybody else's building down, you know, and if you do that, you just be fierce with your life. And so, do you have any tigers there at all? Like, do you have because I have well, you can't see it, but I've got a little lion over there. Not a real one, but
just chilling.
Just chilling. By the way, that's another story. I actually tried to do a video with a lion once, but they didn't let me.
Oh, darn it.
They're like, well, you might die.
Yeah.
But I was like, if I don't, it makes for a really good video.
Right? Like, death by lion, right?
do you have a tiger in the house anywhere at all? And if not, we need to get you one.
Yeah.
Like a
poster or something, right?
Anything.
So I have a t-shirt. So I have a t-shirt that has a tiger on it. And I've had this t-shirt for years, and it's like, I wear it all the time. My friends know it because they know that I wear it all the time. And it's just like my inner, you know, my inner tiger. Also, I was born in the year of the tiger. Pretty cool. I like that. The little Chinese.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So is YouTube going to see the tiger shirt at some point. Are you
Oh,
going to
for
bust it out for the
sure.
podcast?
Oh
Yes.
yeah, definitely, definitely.
All right, perfect.
And I also have a drawing. I drew a tiger. So yeah, I've got tigers around me to reinforce. It's like a totem,
Awesome.
right? I think.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Love
yeah.
it.
So,
Well, that was a great show. You guys, I'm so excited. So this is going to be weekly, right? Every
yep.
single Friday, live on YouTube, and then we'll put out the audio on iTunes and Google
Yeah.
Play and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Catch us on Facebook too. You can find us
yep.
on our page. Our business page is Growth Hackers Podcast on Facebook, and on Instagram, Growth Hackers Podcast. I mean, it's like we got the best name. Like,
I know, I love that. How is that name available? Like,
yeah.
I don't even. It's crazy, and the .com. So,
Yeah.
like I said, this is a baby. Like everything's brand new. All of our stuff is brand new. So you guys are gonna grow with us. You're starting seeing us from like this is we were
Literally
just
and figuratively.
Yes, exactly. In many ways.
Yes, all the growth.
And we're gonna have fun in the process, which is always a plus.
Absolutely. Well, thank you guys all for tuning in. Can't wait to get to know all of you guys live. And Phil, thank you so much. This is going to be amazing. I think we nailed it.
We nailed it. I'm excited. Thank you guys so much. We'll see you next week.
Next week.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Bye.